When I finally told my dad about the events of our Christmas dinner, he was speechless. I half expected him to say that he knew, then maybe the abuse and neglect would make sense. But instead, he actually started crying and giving me this long-winded speech about how I was the only good thing in this world that he had ever done, and that he was currently in rehab, which is why I hadn't heard from him. I can't lie, I felt all kinds of emotions. But I did ask him if he ever thought at any point that I wasn't his kid, and he said yes. There was a brief moment when I was first born that he thought that I wasn't his, but chalked it up to jitters from being a dad for the first time. Either way, he was more than willing to submit his DNA so that we could find out for good. My grandmother asked Brian the same, and after we submitted the information, it took 2 weeks for us to get the results. When we got them, I immediately called my dad in rehab and said, "You are not the father. Somebody call Maury, that is not your baby." I'm just kidding, I didn't say that. But I did confirm his worst fears by letting him know that he was indeed not my father. But then that meant that I had to call Brian next and tell him the results as well. You won't believe how he responded to the news. When I called Brian to let him know that he was my father, he sighed. I mean, like a genuine sigh. And I honestly couldn't tell if he was happy or not. Instead, he flat out asked me if I was okay with him being my father. I told him honestly that I couldn't tell him over the phone. So he invited me once again to come to his house. My grandmother insisted on coming, and I definitely didn't stop her. When we got there, Brian was already waiting outside for us. And as soon as I got out of the car, he hugged me for a long time and then apologized to me for not being active in my life. Now, I won't lie, it wasn't him that I blamed. In fact, I felt like my mother was the catalyst to all of this. When I asked where she was, he informed me that she packed a few of her things and left. He claimed that she felt guilty and didn't know how to face me, so she left to take a little break, which to me just sounded like she was playing the victim in a situation that she created, but that's just my take on it. Either way, Brian invited me to live with him and his 2 daughters. He also asked my grandmother if he could formally adopt me. My grandmother, of course, said the decision was all mine, which I admired her for. I ended up living with my grandmother for 3 more years before transitioning into the home of Brian and his daughters. I won't lie, it's been a very different experience, but I lived with him until I went away to college. I am 21 now, and I'm hoping to add to my family here in the next 4 months. I do still keep in touch with my father that raised me. From the last time we talked, it sounds like he's doing well and has even met someone new that he's sharing his life with. My sisters are in high school, and from what I hear, they're doing great. One of them is in band, the other is pursuing art. We have a pretty good relationship, and I'm hoping to build on it. My grandmother passed away last year, and it was a really hard day for us all, but I genuinely think that she held in there just to see me make it, and I will never forget her for that. As far as my mother, Brian says he keeps in touch with her, but I genuinely think that the day that she left was the day that he kicked her out, but he'll never admit that to me, of course. Either way, according to him, she's doing well on her own. I want to believe that, but right now I have my own family brewing, and all I can do is hope that I'll be half the mother that my grandmother was. Do you think she'll mind if I name my child after her? I guess we'll see. Wish me luck.